How can mirrors be real if your eyes aren't real? Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. It's been a while since I have actually filmed a video. The video that I uploaded yesterday is actually filmed like 3 days ago. So I'm back and I'm reviewing more movies because I realized that I don't watch enough movies, and I will have to make the top 50-ish worst movies by the end of the decade, so I gotta watch more shitty movies. So I watched two movies, Conan the Barbarian and After Earth. And since After Earth is the star of this video, I'm gonna talk about the former first, Conan the Barbarian. Essentially a remake of a film by the same name, which stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as the main role, Conan the Barbarian. And then they decided to remake the movie because why not? And it stars friggin' Khal Drogo, Aquaman, Jason Momoa as the main character, alongside with a bunch of like other people. And while it's not as bad as I have expected it to be, it's still very, very bad. The plot is basically, there's this Conan the Barbarian guy, whose village got raided by this evil guy, and this evil guy wants to, bang this chick, so Conan sort of stole the chick from this evil guy, and then they fought, and then, spoiler alert, Conan won at the end. Very creative, original plot indeed. That being said, it still makes no sense. This movie makes no sense. Yes, this movie is shorter than it wants to be, yet it's longer than it's needed to be, because there are so many just boring ass, completely unnecessary moments in the movie, while we have action sequences that makes zero friggin' sense. Suddenly they're on the beach, and then suddenly they're being held captive, they're imprisoned, and then suddenly they're free again, and it all happens within 10 minutes. Nothing makes sense. There's the scene where Conan the Barbarian and this chick bangs. This chick leaves suddenly for some reason, ended up on a beach. 10 seconds later, somehow ended up in the middle of the forest, and suddenly gets captured for no reason. Like, not only does this movie not make any sense, and it's just so jumbled, it's so here and there, it's a mess, but also the characters, they make the stupidest of decisions ever. And yeah, other than all those errors, it's a pretty forgettable movie. Nothing about this movie really lands in my memory. It's like The Legend of Hercules, another terrible movie that I've watched. I guess it's a little better than The Legends of Hercules because the production value is a little higher. But still, even though this movie's R-rated, there's a lot of blood and gore and naked woman. Doesn't make it entertaining. In fact, it's still pretty shite. And that's all I have to say about this movie. It's trash, and I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. Light 3. But the real star of the video is After Earth. And, yeah. Yikes. This movie, it's a big yikes. So After Earth. You know what's the biggest plot twist in this movie? Is that it is actually directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the king of plot twists. But originally, this movie isn't even M. Night Shyamalan's idea. It was essentially a movie idea by Will Smith, famous actor from West Side of Philadelphia, and his son, Jaden Smith, who is now a full-time rapper. Uh, Not an actor, but back then he acted. He was in the movie Karate Kid, which I think I've seen like 2 times or something, which is not really that good of a movie now that I'm thinking about it. But back to After Earth. So, woke boy, Jaden Smith, and his very famous celebrity dad, Will Smith, they wanted to make a cool little sci-fi movie for father-son bonding, and they got M. Night Shyamalan for the directing position. And it's a horrible idea. They shouldn't have done it. They should not have done it. First of all, M. Night Shyamalan is not a terrible director. He has made movies like Signs, Unbreakable, and The Sixth Sense. Also, recently the movie Split, which I think is great as well. But he has also made movies like The Happening and The Last Airbender, which is a movie that I've reviewed a couple years ago, which I've given a very negative score. And then we have this. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think the only plausible reason as to why M. Night's filmography is so polarizing is that he doesn't even really get to direct his own movies. And the plot of the movie is basically so Will Smith's character, Cypher, and his son, what's the name again? Katai, I think. So this movie takes place like a few thousand years after Earth is completely ruined, so they have to move. All the humans, all the remaining survivors on Earth have to move to a new planet, and then there are aliens on that new planet, so there's this huge war that's been happening for like a long time, and then Cypher, the dad, he is fearless, he is super brave, and famous for that. And because those aliens actually don't have eyes, they smell human fear, and so they can sense humans by that, and so they kill them. But since Will Smith's character is fearless, the aliens can't sense him, and this technique is called ghosting, and it's like a very cool ability. And Katai, his son, really looked up to his dad because his dad could ghost. So one day, Cypher, Katai, and a bunch of people decided to go on an intergalactic mission of some sorts. Suddenly, the spaceship was like in the middle of a bunch of asteroids, and they were like, oh my gosh, we need to go somewhere else ASAP, otherwise the ship will tear apart. So they randomly crash landed back to Earth. And when they landed back on Earth, there were all sorts of creatures on Earth that are designed to kill humans. And since apparently everybody on that spaceship died other than Will Smith and Jaden Smith, and since Will Smith's legs are broken, 2 of them, Jaden Smith needs to go to the tail section of the spaceship because it's broken apart like Lost, and find a beacon so that they could receive help from like people from across the universe. So yeah, this movie really only has 2 actors, and it's mostly Jaden Smith, because throughout the entire movie, Will Smith is sitting on a chair, talking, and emotionlessly, because he's supposed to be fearless, he's supposed to have no fears, so he's this emotionless asshole who doesn't really know how to love his son. And then we have Jaden's character, who is supposed to be very cowardly and very emotional. It's just so miscast, because Jaden Smith in real life tries to act cool all the time with all these woke ass tweets, and then Will Smith in real life is full of emotions and is very lively, and they switched up. Yes, Will Smith is a good actor, But Jaden Smith, not at all. No. Some of his acting in this movie is straight up laughable, and with dialogues from M Night Shyamalan, and also co-written by Will and Jaden themselves. This movie is hilariously terrible. One of the lines in this movie is, "My suit changed to black. I like it, but I think it's bad." Like, that's literally one of the lines in the movie. Again, the plot makes no sense. The acting is terrible as well. There are multiple scenes where Jaden Smith gets super frustrated or scared or angry, and he just, like, the awkward pauses and the weird noises that he makes, and he passes out like 6 times in the movie. He keeps on passing out for no good reason. And then we have the contents of the movie. It makes no sense. It's like 1,000 years, maybe a few thousand years, from present day. So let's assume that all the technology is super well developed and futuristic and advanced. Nope, it's not. They're all terribly designed. Feel free. I'm gonna put a link in the description of Adam, Your Movie Sucks very in-depth analysis of the movie, because he basically nitpicks every single error in the movie. But I'm not gonna do that because I don't have that much time. But yeah, nothing makes sense in the movie. Nothing. Like literally nothing makes sense. Also, every single actor has to do this accent because it takes place in the future, so English accent in the future should be a little different, which is a cool idea. But since whoever came up with this accent isn't really that good at making accents, and since none of the actors are really that good or that well cast, every single actor speaks in a different accent in this movie, and they all sound ridiculous. Like the word Earth is Earth, and Ursa, which is the name of the smelling alien, Ursa. It's it's actually really funny. Oh no, Dad, the Ursa has escaped. And yeah. Did I tell you that the entire movie is basically Jaden Smith trying to reach that beacon, but since there are cameras on his suit, apparently, so Will Smith can look around him and talk to him. And then there's another scene where a giant bird was supposed to attack Jaden Smith because Jaden is the prey and the giant bird is the predator. And then, like 20 minutes later, the bird saves him. It makes no sense. And then there's another scene where there are these monkeys surrounding Jaden Smith, and Will Smith is literally the only person alive and the only person who can guide Jaden Smith. And Will Smith said, "Don't move," and Jaden Smith has to move. Like he has to, for some weird reason. And then we have the ending of the movie, the climax of the movie, where Jaden Smith ran into an Ursa, an alien, and you know, the climax of the movie is super like dramatic, and there's this very long-winded fight between Jaden Smith and the alien, and the whole time Will Smith is just laying down on his chair, barely falling asleep, saying, "Good boy, good boy." Another thing that makes this movie terrible is simply that this movie is boring. It's really boring. The premise is good, actually. Going back to Earth, it's a totally different place now, and you have to survive Earth, and it's scary, and you're exploring new territory. Like it's supposed to be interesting. Same goes for the premise of The Last Airbender. In fact, the lore of the Last Airbender is actually really friggin' interesting. But of course, Shyamalan ruins the movie with terrible dialogue and plot points. And same goes for this movie. But since the premise of this movie is is not as interesting as The Last Airbender, this movie is probably worse than The Last Airbender. And the way the plot expands in the movie, it just feels so straightforward and so strict. It feels like the plot has no room for expansion. This movie has no room for creativity. And at the end of the day, it's just 2 hours wasted in my life. I don't know for what. Uh, but uh, but yeah, nothing about this movie makes sense, and everything about this movie is quite the terrible. I am saying that this movie is trash, and I'm giving it a light 1 out of 10. So, have you watched these two movies? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. Also, I just watched The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson. And originally, I'm going to make a movie review today, immediately after I finished watching the movie. No, I don't understand The Master. It's such a complex movie. I may have to rewatch it and maybe do some research around it